All right, hey, welcome back to the Fireside Tattoo Podcast, the official podcast of the Tattoo Improvement Network. I'm here with Paul Booth, who's been working his ass off all day and still took the time to hang out with us for just a minute. Got a piece in Best of Show right now that's being judged. Looks pretty angry.
Nah, usually my work is pretty angry.
Yeah. If obviously everyone knows Paul, you've been a cornerstone of tattooing for ever. A ton of people have been influenced. If I don't ask some tattoo-related question, our fan base will beat me to death. So I'll have to talk about tattoos for just a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about just your influence first off. And we see people now that have obviously drawn inspiration from you. One thing I notice, and I wonder if you have, is that a lot of that your style of work is getting darker, not darker. Without a lot of, more saturated, darker overall, where you look at it and you go like, I'm not sure what that's going to be in a couple of years. Like you have obviously had, you've got you use a full range of value. You have a lot of positive and negative, and compositionally things work really well. You leave enough light for the form to really describe itself. Do you notice that a lot of it is getting darker and heavier and more saturated? And does it concern you at all for like longevity, or do you even know what
I'm all about longevity.
Yeah.
Every tattoo I do, I'm thinking about 10 years down the road while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
My tattoos don't even look right until they're like a year old.
Yeah.
Or at least 3 months. The fresh work that you see, like pictures I take on Instagram or whatever, where I can't get a healed shot, or fresh work here this weekend. My work gets, because of my pace, there tends to be a little more bruising and redness. It's not that it's necessarily brutalized. It's just that I kind of very repetitive scribbling over an area. And so it gets really red and dark, Yeah. But when my tattoos heal, they settle in, hopefully how I want them to.
Right.
But, I actually remember an era. I guess I'm old enough now I can say an era in my life where my stuff was darker than it is now. Perhaps too dark at that point. But I think I've leveled it out and figured out a few things. And, it's all about longevity. If it's not going to look good in 10 years, then it's not a tattoo as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And I guess that the people that I'm speaking of that have taken some influence, that's just something you have to learn by seeing your work after years and years. It's not something that I guess on the front end, it's hard to know that without. It's hard to learn that lesson without seeing aged work. I guess.
Yeah. I mean that wisdom comes with age, because you see your work 10, 15, 20 years old, and you see what it does, and then you make mental notes and say, okay, well, let's not do that anymore. But chances are you're not doing that anymore because it's 20 years old anyway.
Right.
But it's important to look back at the work and see how it's healed. Anytime I see someone at a convention that has an old piece from me, I always try and get photos and study it a bit, see what it did. It's good when it's a piece you can remember and remember what you were thinking to some degree. And
Do you ever get the opportunity, or do you ever like to go back into, say, 10, 15-year-old work? Are you able to punch blacks a little bit, like sharpen edges? Does it do anything for you?
There's a point where, unless it really needs it, I leave it alone and let it age. A total rework, usually there's no just touching up an old piece. It's like reworking an old piece, But I always want to go back into my work. Anytime I see it, there's always improvements I feel like I could make. And, you just don't always get the opportunity, and you're overwhelmed with people, so it's hard. But if someone comes to me and needs or wants a touch-up, I'm there,
Yeah.
So.
All right. Hopefully that satisfied our viewers' tattoo questions, because I want to talk about painting. I want to, and galleries. Now, are you opening a new gallery, replacing an old gallery? What's happening?
There's a lot of confusion on that.
Yeah.
Basically, Last Rites Gallery's been in place and as a set program. Dark surrealism for the most part. Not to label things, but that's the closest I can come to what we show. And it's got a set program. So I don't get to explore beyond that. And normally I never really was that concerned about exploring beyond that. But I started Booth Gallery as an exploration for myself to curate shows with artists that are outside the bounds of the Last Rites program. So Booth Gallery is more about conceptual art or perhaps bigger named artists that wouldn't show at Last Rites. The name scares away some serious artists because they don't take it seriously, because Last Rites, rather than, so I opened Booth Gallery to bridge that gap, and we're showing Odd Nerdrum now. So
and
that's the biggest show of my life.
That's amazing. We were talking about that last night, and I just I couldn't imagine how exciting that is.
Oh my God!
And you were even saying, like, we're in Venice, which who wouldn't want to be in Venice? But you're like, God, it drives me crazy to be here because I know those paintings are sitting in my gallery.
Yeah. I never got to see them on the wall before I left. I missed the opening, but I heard it was awesome. It's like 350 people or something showed up, which is a good number.
What's the size of the space?
5,000 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so nice.
3 floors.
Wow.
So it's a good sized space, and it holds a lot of people. And a lot of notable people came out to the opening, from what I understand. Notable artists from the area that normally wouldn't come by and check us out, So, I mean, it's opened a lot of doors and allowed a lot of new opportunities, which is working out well. But Booth Gallery is basically in the same space as Last Rites Gallery.
Okay.
Last Rites is upstairs in the mezzanine area, and Booth Gallery is the main floor. But we mix it up, we kind of do shows according to who the artist is and which of our galleries they would fit best into.
So as far as the way the layout of the gallery, you mentioned that you repainted for Odd Nerdrum, are they noticeably different, like with the work from, could you interchange work, and as far as the environment, does the environment
the Last Rites Gallery is kind of a little bit lounge-like.
Okay.
Black walls, casket seating, couches, and that kind of vibe,
Right.
Booth Gallery is the old traditional gray walls. I just have a certain tone of gray that I like that helps the artwork stand out. And,
Right.
So Booth Gallery is a bit more on the classy side and clean contemporary side. And then Last Rites Gallery is more of that dark vibe. And then, of course, the tattoo studio in the basement is like a crypt.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's good balance.
Yeah, that is awesome. What so you have the Nerdrum show is up for, you said, a couple of months, is that right?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact date, but I'm sure it'll be up for that.
And so and then you mentioned that you actually had the paintings for, is it a year that you actually had?
Yeah, we got they put faith in us to hold on to them and try and move them for a year.
Wow,
which is fantastic to have them in my possession for that long.
Man, I can't imagine. So the biggest challenge for me would be just taking them off the walls. Like, how do I take these down and put something else up?
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah.
So obviously he was a huge influence on you growing up. Were you familiar with him when you were young? Were you
not when I was young. When I was young, 15, 16, drawing at my art table in my room. It was Boris Vallejo, Frazetta, and Giger were my main early influences. I discovered Odd Nerdrum later on, and I never saw his work live in real life. I just saw it in books, and I was blown away with the work. I mean, it's living master for sure.
So was the pieces that came to your gallery, is that your first experience seeing them in?
Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, we helped get them off the truck and uncrated them and kind of
Sweating
leaned
bullets.
them up against the wall, and I was just blown away. I mean, seeing it in real life after all these years, and
we were talking last night. I had the chance, the last time we were think the last time we were in New York, I knew that the Forum Gallery had some of his pieces, so I made my way there, and nothing was out, but I did find one in a back office, like hanging above someone's desk in an office, and I asked to go back, and I really felt like I was looking at an old master's painting. The amount of paint, the amount of like translucency, you could see so far into it. You could you can't, like looking at Rembrandt, you can't tell which brushstroke was put down when. They intertwine so well. It's just amazing to look at in person. We've got to find a way to get there and see that show. I don't know if we can make it in 2 months, but so back to the gallery just for a second. What you mentioned dark surrealism is kind of the term that you used.
If you got to give it a label, I suppose, yeah.
But when you started Last Rites, there was really not a lot of acceptance for that in New York. Was that type of work wasn't showing anywhere?
No.
And I assume
I was kind of a rogue gallery that no one took seriously. Lowbrow work. Well, what are they calling it now? New contemporary? I don't know. I can't keep track. But the lowbrow scene, was quite a bit smaller than as far as the contemporary lowbrow scene. So I was the only real gallery that was focusing on this stuff in New York. Not the only one, but I mean, kind of like in a niche for sure. And I don't care, because I opened the gallery in the first place because everyone told me I wasn't a real artist because I worked on skin. So, my rebellious nature is to say, okay, well, how about I open an art gallery and we'll bridge that gap between tattooing and painting in the fine art world, And initially it was about that, and I was going to show tattoo artists and that sort of thing. But as I got, it just kind of took off, and I was being taken seriously by contemporary artists that I admired. I'd ask them to show, and they would. So, we ran with it and learned as we went, really.
Yeah. Have you seen that that style of work become more accepted across New York galleries, or so it's all over now? Or is it?
I see galleries changing their whole program. There's several galleries that have moved over to more of the lowbrow scene, I think people are looking for something a little different in the fine art world now, and it's becoming more accepted. I guess that's a double-edged sword, really, because it's outsider art, and when outsider art becomes popular, it's always a double-edged sword.
Right. What percentage, if you could take a stab at it, of let's just use Last Rite since it's been around longer. What percentage of the art that comes through there is from tattooers and or exclusively painters? Do you have any idea?
Group shows, I get more tattoo artists involved. There's a thing with tattooing that's tricky to say, really, but the tattooers that are learning to paint, because they're still learning, even if they're good but they're new to painting, or newer to painting, are very graphic and illustrative in their design.
Sure.
It's almost like they're painting flash. And thinking inside the box or that piece of real estate they're given.
Right.
Whereas fine art is more discussionary and even conceptual at times. But it's hard to. There's tattoo artists that are fantastic painters that I show. They've bridged that. They've made it across from the typical tattoo painting kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those guys that stand out, I try and represent when I can.
Yeah. It is difficult. I noticed the same thing with tattooers that are making their way into painting, and it's just a difference of handling the media. I know, but a lot of times you find I see not enough paint on the canvas to even work with a lot. They're drawing very thin with paint. They're over blending and trying to treat it like a tattoo, and it does tend to take on, even if it's not meant to be flash, it kind of takes on an over polished flash kind of look. And that's tricky. And I would imagine when you're in the business of showing where people expect to see tattooers painting,
Right.
you're constantly having to like draw the line, like, you're not.
Yeah,
You're
well,
not,
I mean, I'm a gallery owner that, like, I show the work that I like, not just on a personal level, but I mean, there's work that I kind of like, but I'll show because it's just my own opinion. It's not something where I only show what I like to show. I try and be versatile and expose people to new things when I can.
yeah.
And I guess, I don't know, really. I lost my train of thought,
Yeah,
actually.
no, that's
I'm
good.
sorry.
I just had an idea that popped in my head, and I don't know if it's. We were just we did a podcast with David Casson yesterday or day before, and we were talking to him a little while ago, and he mentioned the possibility of you guys maybe working on something together.
Well, I love his work.
Oh,
I
yeah,
always
he's incredible.
have. We don't show a lot of portraiture. It's we do figurative stuff quite a bit, but I go for a darker aesthetic normally. So, David and I are discussing ideas on how to approach it because I'd love to show his work, but it has to fit too.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, did he mention, or did I mishear him about maybe a collaborative process between the two
Yeah, we
of
talked
you?
about that as well.
Yeah.
I threw it out there to him just because for me it's a learning experience. I mean, if I could do a painting with the guy,
Sure.
and I could get in his head and understand how he works and learn something.
Yeah.
So I tend to, when I have an artist who I admire and I might feel inspired by, I'll be like, hey, all they can say is no, right?
Sure.
And I say, hey, if you ever want to collaborate on a painting or a tattoo, let me know because I'd love to work with you. And sometimes it's, hit or miss. Depends on the artist, and not every artist wants to collaborate.
Yeah.
But it's such a great learning tool, and I utilize it whenever I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm hoping me and him can sit down and create something crazy.
I would love to see what came out of it. I can't wrap my brain around what it might be, but I would love to see whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, my concern is the levels of technical skill are vastly separate. I'm not nearly the painter he is, so I'm going to be faking my way through that.
Like you said, if you don't ask and if you don't take chances like that, you never get any better. So that's that would be exciting. I'd love to see what comes of that, if anything does. I'll try to close it out again with a little bit of tattooing. What we talked about how recognizable what you do is, and we help a lot of beginning tattooers. We try to, kind of like you said, help bridge the gap. We encourage tattooers to explore other mediums, so we bring in a lot of painters, and I try to draw parallels between the two.
That's important.
I really enjoy doing it, and I think that one thing that we hear from tattooers all the time is that they're really in a hurry to develop to identify with a style of tattooing, because they can look at Paul Booth and know, oh, Paul Booth did that. They can look at Guy Etchison and say, that's a Guy Etchison. And sometimes they're rushing into that, or more often than not, they're rushing into that. Do you feel like at all that you are pigeonholed stylistically in what you do? Do
Absolutely.
you feel like you?
But I did it on purpose.
Okay.
Because that's human nature. People pigeonhole you, They categorize you, they label you, they pigeonhole you. And when I first came on the scene, we're talking 91 when I first hit the magazines. I had all these magazines asking for my work, to post. And this was before the internet, I think.
Yeah.
And, they would ask me for work. And, I've always kind of had a hobby of studying psychology and that sort of thing, and I kind of knew that, like, okay, all of a sudden I'm in demand, everyone wants to see my work, you only want to show them your best stuff, but more importantly, I only wanted to show them the stuff I enjoyed doing, because I knew if I showed versatility, they wouldn't be able to pigeonhole me. And they need to pigeonhole me to remember me. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a branding process that, if I'm going to get pigeonholed, then it's going to be something that I really love to do. And I have no regrets at all. I love the demonic stuff, and I kind of carved that out. Because back in the day, in 91, I was still doing color work and various things. Not everything was dark. But that was where my heart was, so that's what I gave them, you know.
So looking back 25, 26 years after that first kind of hitting the magazines, has there been a downside to that at all? Do you feel like that was, I guess you feel like that was the right decision?
Yeah, for me, absolutely.
So
I love, you know, I mean, I know for some people all my work looks the same and all that, but it depends if I'm like working a convention or not. People are looking for souvenir pieces. They want a demon head. I mean, with my style, there's only so many ways to kind of define that, you know. At home, it's more multiple sitting projects where I can get more experimental. So the balance between shows and staying home is, I keep a good balance now.
Okay.
And I'm happy about that.
I guess that really was my question, is if you're able to push your boundaries and experiment within that. And so you feel like you still are.
Oh, yeah. It's just, you're just talking subject matter and style here, you know.
Yeah.
Subject matter doesn't limit you unless you let it.
Sure.
You know, I did an evil koala bear once. I did an evil bunny rabbit. I mean, you know, I just put my dark twist on whatever subject matter I'm given, but I always white out the eyes. That's my thing. It's kind of a symbolic gesture and part of my philosophy in tattooing. So you always see whited out eyes and, you know, the stark contrast and textures, and, you know.
Yeah. Is it to you when you find yourself pushing boundaries? Is it? I'm sure it's all of this, but is it textural? Or are you always experimenting with technique to push to do anything with? I'm
refining technique. For instance, I mean, I'm all about efficiency and being effective and getting the job done. On one hand, where I like to get in there and do the job, you know. On the other hand, I'm also fast because I render when I work. And rendering is a process that's very like sketching, you know. You just kind of sketch out an idea. I work freehand on skin, so I'm literally sketching on skin, and that happens more rapidly than, you know, than trying to duplicate a portrait, for example.
Sure.
You know, my stuff is all free form, flowing, more about fitting the body a certain way than anything else. And yeah, that's it lends itself the efficiency and everything. I guess my style lends itself to be fast. I don't rush. It's not about rushing at all. It's about keeping up with my brain, with my equipment. You know, my tools slow me down.
Yeah.
I'm thinking faster, or I'm creating in my head faster than I'm able to tattoo it. And that somehow sped me up.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting way to look at it. I hadn't thought of that. As far as projects, how often are you taking new projects? Is it easy to get tattooed by you these days?
My manager tells me I'm booked out like 4 years now. I decided I'm going to kind of just stop taking new appointments at home and try and get caught up a little bit, which I never will. But I end up kind of hand-picking stuff and pulling them out of the hat, and something that interests me or suits me, you know, or something I'm in the mood for, I'll take that on. If I can be experimental and have a lot of artistic freedom, then of course I'm going to go for it, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah,
Good luck
happy.
with the Nerdrum show.
Thank you.
I'll be keeping up with it. I don't think we can make it in 2 months, but I may knock on your door in 6 months and see if I can look at them.
We'll pull them out and show them.
I would love it. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks, man.
You guys know where to find him. Thank you, guys.